Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is Diptii Shah and welcome to my show Artistry. Today it is all about food. No recipes here. Today I have with me Miss Asmita Bharadwaj, who is a food blogger, food photographer, and food stylist. Hello, Asmita, and welcome to my show.
Hi, Deepthi. Thank you for having me.
All right, Asmita, I understand that you are from Bokaro, beautiful steel city. How was it growing up there?
Uh, I have to say it was very special and unique. Something which there's a term that we use for people who come from steel cities. We call us ourselves steel kids. So only steel kids will relate to it. It's a very nice and beautiful and safe bubble, if I may say so. Uh, Like-minded people doing similar things, and so it's a small, it has all small town positives and a few negatives as well, but it also has a very cosmopolitan vibe to it, in the sense everybody is from all over India. So you get exposed without, things that we think about it now as parents, but at that time you are just exposed to so much. You're living in a mini India. So that kind of really broadens your horizons. It exposes you, teaches you about different people who come from different backgrounds, and how all of us are unique but still the same. The subtle messaging is on, I think, since you're a child, and then it helps you. It helps you once you're in your adulthood. So I think we had that exposure without worrying about the stress of, safety and big city hassles. We still had a laid back life, things that we would do, typical things which we would do over the weekend. So I think, yeah, it was very boring. I mean, for today's young people, it will be like a very boring thing, but we didn't know better at that time. So for us, it was like perfect, and I think I wouldn't trade it for anything else.
All right. I would say sum it up as a very community feeling, while growing up.
Definitely. And community, not in the sense of how we speak today, in the sense of social media, or it's community feeling in the truest sense of the word. People are there for you through thick and thin, and you celebrate festivals. Doors are open on Diwali, and people are walking in, walking out. So it's a very nice community, right? Absolutely.
Sure, sure. Very blessed feeling of, having grown up in that protected kind of environment.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So tell me, how did this love affair with the camera begin?
I don't know. I think when I was little, I always had like one of my mom's brothers, and even my mother, playing around with the camera, those days with the real camera. So photography, I think, in a typical Indian middle class, is a camera is always a big part, right? You carry it with you wherever you go, when you go on holidays, and then when my little brother was born, I remember at that time, my mama, that is my mother, and my mama getting together to do like a newborn photo shoot sort of a thing. Nothing as fancy as people do today, but I remember they sat in one sunny winter afternoon, and they kept asking me to pose with my brother, and I would never get it at what to do and how to do. I think the seeds were sown around that time, and eventually I've always been a creative person, so I have always but yeah, of course, when I was growing up, creativity was not very celebrated. You had to do things a certain way, and you do them a certain way because you listen to your parents, and then eventually you do find your path. But yeah, so I think photography was always there. Then when I came to Hong Kong, we started traveling around Hong Kong, then my kids were born, so you're always trying to capture moments. So I was using and then the camera phones are not that great that time, right? So you still would use a DSLR, and that's how it started. And then eventually I found my way into food photography, and I loved it. I loved the whole creativity associated to it. styling and modifying light, how the same setup can look completely different in a different different kind of light. And it's again very challenging, so it always keeps me interested. I don't lose interest in photography. That's something which I love about it.
So when you do food photography, is it because that you are a foodie yourself, or is it something else that inspires you about food?
I would not call myself a foodie in the traditional sense of the word, because I like to try different things. But I have my soul food which I keep going back to, and I love Indian khana, but I love to explore. I think my husband is more of a foodie, and now my kids are turning into one. But I don't think I started cooking as such because I love to eat. For me, it's a challenge of trying something new. If you tell me to go into the kitchen and cook every single day a meal for my family and the routine stuff, I wouldn't do it. I cannot do it. To me, it is about trying something new, try creating something new from scratch, and something which I didn't know. I knew nothing about, and then suddenly, I've taught myself. So that was the biggest thing. I started food photography and food blogging at the same time. Food blogging happened because I felt very strongly about sharing my recipes with the rest of the world. And it's so easy these days, right? Like you create an Instagram account, you have a WordPress blog, and you start creating recipes and sharing them. I thought there was so much about Indian food which was unknown to even Indians, forget the rest of the world. So I was very passionate about, I still am very passionate about breaking a lot of myths about Indian food. And it's not just comfort food. There's so
Right.
much more to it. That is how I started. But as I said, I keep evolving. For me, it's always about like what's next, what's new.
And you
I've been doing it
also
for like 4
bring
years. Yeah.
forward Oriya food and food from the eastern
Yes.
part of India. You
Yes.
highlight that.
Yes. There is a lot of that on my blog. A lot of unique recipes, which that I started blogging were not very common. Last 2 years has seen a burst of Indian food bloggers in India and outside. But yeah, so but even then, I feel that I have a lot of very, very unique and healthy traditional Indian recipes on my blog. So that was the push for me to start blogging. So blogging came first, and then of course I had to take photos of what I was cooking, and so photography was a close second. But now I feel I am more and more drawn to photography and styling than just cooking.
Asmita, talking about just blogging. I mean, there are so many blogs, I would say millions of blogs, if not more.
Yeah.
How do you keep up with the market? How do you differentiate yourself?
Yes, as you rightly said, blogging is almost very saturated as a field, and it's very, very competitive. So I feel that unless you have something very unique to offer, and it's very hard to keep up. It's almost next to impossible. But what's good about blogging is you just have to be patient in the first few years. It's like a slow burner. So in the first few years, and that's what most people give up, right? They try for 2-3 years and then they're like, okay, this is not happening, and they give up. But that's something which you have to keep in your mind, that this will not happen overnight. And you have to always keep reminding yourself that why did you start it in the first place? Do you want to blog because everybody else is doing it? Or is there something which is very unique and powerful that you want to bring to your audience? And that is why you started. So if you
Sure.
have that thought in your mind, you will keep patient, you will be persistent. And of course, it's a lot of hard work, because as a blogger, you have to don multiple hats and you learn a lot of things along the go. The analytics are forever changing. So I think persistence and unique content, good quality content, and building a community is critical. And a lot of social media, a lot of social microblogging platforms, as we call it, right? Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, help to kind of build a community. So it's not impossible, but you have to have something to offer.
So, Asmita, you are the maker of the food. You make the food, you take the photos, you blog about them. When did food styling hit you? What is food styling?
uh, right from the very beginning, right? I thought I was following a few people on Instagram, and every time I would look at their photos, I would feel like, this is something which is very intriguing. And more than the food itself, I would look at how the person had styled the entire scene, and my eyes would automatically get drawn more to that. So when I started sharing my recipes on my food blog, in my head I was styling since then. But obviously, it's a really, really big learning curve, and it takes a lot of time, and it's a constant work in progress. You can't say that, now I know how to style food, because every food, every dish has its own challenges. And if you're doing paid work for any client, they'll come with their own set of expectations. um, so I think it's still a work in progress. Yeah, but it started when I started blogging.
All right. So it is actually true that we first savor food or anything with our
Yes,
eyes, and then it
absolutely.
goes through our, nose and then into the
Yes.
mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen it. I mean, I've consciously tried to, because when I started blogging, there were people like, why do you have to try so hard? If the recipe is good, why do you have to try so hard to make it look good? And I was like, it's more about me. I like to present it in a good way. And the second thing is, people are not tasting your food, right? They were going to try your recipe. And no matter how nice it tastes in reality, but they don't get to taste it. They see the picture, and that's how you draw attention. And that's something which is unique, right? There are, as you said, there's so many food bloggers. Why would somebody want to come and try my recipe if the pictures do not look good? And at least in the beginning, right?
Right,
If
right.
that's a way to attract audience as well.
Yeah, the first step to anything is to create that desire through attraction, right?
Yes. Yep. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Right. So, Asmita, would you have top tips to take, you know, drooling photos of food or mouth-watering photos of food?
I would say for somebody who's starting off, like, again, there is no rule book. And as a lot of, I mean, it's commonly said, right? You need to master the rules if you want to break them. Uh, Food styling and photography is very creative as a field, but at the same time, there's a lot of science to it also. So I always say that people who are starting off, I think I'm still a beginner myself, and there's so much more that I want to do, but you know I haven't done for one reason or the other. uh, it's always best to keep things simple and start from a basic uh, neutral backdrop. uh, People tend to put overcrowded scene, just not just food, even any product, any picture. I always feel keeping it simple is the hardest thing. uh, I would always say keep it simple. Always think about, what are you trying to say with your picture? Who do you want to reach with your picture? And then add elements to your setup. Do not just put something in the setup because it looks pretty. If I'm setting up a Diwali scene, or I'm trying to take a picture for to say that this is Diwali and I'm celebrating Diwali, I would not just put everything that goes with Diwali on the set, because I have to see how it ties in together in terms of colors, position, space, textures. So it's important to add things and to create interest, but at the same time, it shouldn't look overcrowded. So that's why, and it's not easy. It's very hard to have 20 elements in a scene and to make it look homogeneous, to make it look, it can go really, really wrong. And that's something which comes with practice. That's why I suggest that in the beginning, always try to keep it very simple. If the focus is food, just, food should be well made, obviously. And, sometimes for photos, the food, the way we cook for photos is not always the way we cook to eat, So if it's fresh ingredients, it's always good to undercook it a little bit. And always set up the scene before you bring in the food. Do all your work in advance so that the minute the food is on the table or on the set, you shoot it right away. Also, right, because you can't keep it there and then start practicing your photography. For that, you can use like fruits and books and flowers, which are or baked goods, which don't look sad after half an hour. So that's another thing. So plan before, create your mood board, think about the story, think about what elements would go and why do they need to go. In the beginning, try to shoot only in natural light, turn off all the artificial light, like lamps and anything which has an orange hue. Morning light, afternoon light, any light is good as long as you know how to use it. And again, it's all practice. Observe the light in your house. Different windows will give you different quality of photos. Different type of light affects and creates a different mood, and evokes a different emotion. So I think understanding light is very important. So taking time to learn how, and modifying light. If it's not bright light is not always best for photography. So if you're using a window which is brightly lit, put a white curtain to diffuse the light. Things like this. And always, I feel rules are one side, but always go with your gut. And I've seen, as I have honed my skills as a photographer, I have also honed my gut feel. You need to listen to your gut. You need to listen to your creative instinct also. That is why your work, you'll have the same recipe or the same rule book to learn photography, but two people will create completely different tasting dish and a completely different picture with the same props, right? So it's also very personal. And so I would say take time to learn, unlearn, and be ready to make mistakes. It's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight.
Very wise words, I would say. So, I understand that you also take workshops or, about food styling, food photography. Could you
Yes.
give us details about that?
Yes, I do online or in person, one-on-one, or a group workshop as well, to teach where I touch upon the same areas which we just discussed in the previous question in much more detail. It could be for food photography, it could be for product photography. So people who have small businesses, or people who have small food businesses or restaurants and who do not have the budget to hire a photographer, they can take their own pictures. It's not very hard. Most camera phones are great these days. It's honestly, when people say, what camera do you use? Can you tell me I will get the same camera? It is not about the camera. You need to know how to use it, right? To make the best out of it. And the simpler the camera you have, the better it is, at least in the beginning, till you have the confidence. So, and also you have to kind of remember that why are you taking those photos? Are you training yourself to be a photographer, or are you selling a product? So we touch upon things like these in those workshops. We go into details of it. And obviously photography and styling are two huge topics. So depending upon the client's expectations, I also customize it. And it's not just that, I teach 5 things, you come to a class, you learn and you go back. There's a lot of hand holding which happens before and after. people will message, okay, how do I do this? I taught somebody last year online during COVID, and now she's in the UK, and she still sends me pictures and she asks me, okay, is this fine? Now what do I change here? So it's also like an opportunity for me to learn, and every time I do a workshop, I learn so much. So yeah, we touch upon a lot of technical and some tips to make things work, which comes with experience. It's something like when I started off, I did not have that luxury. I taught myself everything, which is expensive because you end up getting things that you don't need. And of course, it's frustrating, right? You really have to keep at it, making mistakes and teaching and learning yourself. So I think I bring in that, uh, when I do these workshops, people have somebody to reach to, everything is there online. Everything is there online, but how do you know what to follow and what? So have to have that human, interaction and to be able to
Right, yeah.
go. Yes, makes a lot of difference.
Asmita, all through the talk, all through the chat that we had just now, it seems, and it is the reality, that we cannot ignore social media in today's world.
Yeah.
Be it personal branding or food branding or business branding, anything. How has been your experience in this? You're a major influencer. Do you consider yourself as an influencer? And what has been the journey like?
Yes, I'm glad that you asked me that question because I think the 5 years I've been blogging and microblogging, it has taught me so many things. And I would say, a lot of us know this already, that social media is a necessary evil. And as the phrase goes, it is needed, it is a tool, but we have to be very careful, and it doesn't come easy. Like, I have made those mistakes when I've run behind numbers, and have had phases when I have questioned my work based on just the number of likes and the followers that I have. So that is something which you have to detach yourself from, which takes constant work and constant reminders as to why did I start this. That's why people say, why are you on social media then if these things do not matter to you? But I feel that in today's world, in a place like Hong Kong, an Indian in Hong Kong, where you're already in such a small bubble and you have so much to share, social media is such a powerful tool to take it out there. Like, I have clients who have never met me, or just sent me things from Australia, and I've taken photos for them purely based on my social media presence. And clients look at many things, right? Like what is not just your numbers, but also the community that you have created, the kind of people, the people who value your feedback or people who value your word. So things like that. Uh, so yes, social media is important, but it's also very important to keep reminding ourselves that that is not life. That is one tool, and take it as a work tool and not like your life. A lot of people kind of the edges start getting blurred after you've been on the platform for a long time, and then it just sucks you in. So, and it's not healthy. It's not healthy for the individual. It's not healthy for their peer group. And you are setting out wrong expectations for people who put you up on a pedestal, right? Who follow you. Like today, I've blogged for 5 years. There will be somebody starting off just now and think that, oh, she's doing it. Even I've done that. I've had the wrong idols in the first few years, and I've made mistakes thinking, oh, she's doing it. She's a young mom just like me. If she can do it with hardly any help, so can I, right? But
Sure.
then what meets the eye is not always the full story, right? So you have to always remind yourself. And I have many people who I genuinely love. Uh, so kind of, you have to tell yourself that this is the person I follow for her work, but
Right.
not the other aspects of it, right? So you have
Right.
to pick and choose your needs, your needs, and not the tool, not the platform dominate you and change you as at the core the person that you are. So I love passionate about baking. I love cupcakery. These are 2-3 people whose work I've always admired, and who have always evolved, and they have worked on their craft, and they are Meera Sitaraman is another one who is based in the US. So a lot of people, I think I won't do justice if I take a few names, but these 3, 4 names, because when I started my journey, I saw their work, I would try to replicate. I still cannot do it because you cannot replicate other people's work. But it's always inspiring. You learn a lot by deconstructing their photos. And
Right.
as you would observe, they're all photography. They have recipes, but it's a photography that stands out.
So we should make our choices wisely, as in social media, so in life, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's a very good point that you made, that people sometimes say social media is toxic. Life is toxic if you make the wrong decisions, if you go to the wrong people. Similarly, social media has all kinds of creators. You have to see who resonate with your soul and your purpose, and then take wise decisions. Uh, and always second, third, question yourself 2 times, 3 times before you do something on social media. So why you're doing it? Are you following the herd? Are you doing it because it means a lot to you?
Yeah,
Or are you doing it just because it'll get you the numbers?
sure, sure.
Um, so it's
Asmita,
important.
on a lighter note, I feel that people who are creatives, whether it be dancers, actors, writers, performers of any kind, photographers, we are kind of not running any race. Rather, we are looking for fulfillment, if I may speak for our creative community. Would you agree to that?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
would you
absolutely.
say that it is exactly opposite to the hustle culture that is the fad for the past decade or so, or 2 decades?
Uh, I would say there's hustle culture everywhere, even in creatives. I have no idea how do such creatives sustain. Honestly, I have no ideas. Because we only see the end result, right? We don't see what has happened in the background. So are they even creatives? Who are they? So I would say hustle culture is everywhere. And most people who are running the race sooner or later realize that it's toxic. But people have to go through what they go through to realize that. I think the wiser ones wake up to it when they still have time, you know,
Right.
and not much has been lost. Some people wake up to it when their body forces them to, health conditions or personal reasons, whatever it could be. So I think, and especially in a place like an urban setup like Hong Kong, where everybody seems busy all the time, doing what we don't know, uh, doing why we don't know. So it's very easy to kind of feel that, why am I not running as much as they are, right? So
Exactly.
again, and I think there are some people, although I have to say, there are some people who have those personalities, who thrive with that kind of a rush hustle culture. I have seen people like that too. So one has to decide what works for them, and not just, it's not, again, it's very difficult. If it was this easy, everybody would have attained nirvana, right? Like we would always, or probably be on Mount Kailash meditating or something like that. But it's not easy. uh, but yeah, I mean, people like you and me have these conversations. We share our journeys. I talk openly about my journey as a creative all the time. Every time I learn a lesson, I share it with my community without feeling the need to, without feeling the fear of being judged or, whatever. So I think you have to kind of stay true to yourself and have blinders on in a certain way that you don't get affected by what is going around you. I think once you're true to yourself and your purpose and your goal, then everything else starts to not matter too much. So yeah, if your purpose is to be the CEO in the next 10 years, and if your health and your personal circumstances allow it, go for it. Uh,
Why not? Yeah.
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 But yeah, it's always a little bit of restraint, and patience is something which we as a generation are losing it. right? We always want something in a rush, and things do not happen our way. We get fed up and we're like, to hell with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we all have our own journeys and we learn it in our own ways.
Yeah. Yeah, right. We have to figure it out on our own what works for us, right?
Yes, because no matter how many books we read, and no matter how many friends and well-meaning people will come and give you that suggestion, we will be like, yeah, that's her journey, not mine. You know,
Absolutely.
we would, unless we go through something in our own lives, we would, and probably some of us never go through it, so they don't feel the need to slow down.
Sure, sure. And you cannot make them understand, anyone understand
No,
anything,
and you cannot, right? You can just do what is good for you and be the best version of yourself. Your
right?
purpose, unless you are some guru, your purpose is not to change the world. So I think just by being true to yourself, you are changing the world in your own small way, I feel.
So lovely, so lovely. So on that note, Asmita, where can people follow you, get in touch with you?
You can follow and get in touch with me on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. I'm on LinkedIn as well by my name. You can look me up by Asmita Bharadwaj Das, or you can also look me up as One Wholesome Meal. I think Asmita Bharadwaj is probably easier, and I don't know. Yeah, I could. Yeah, that's how you can find me everywhere on all social media platforms. I am trying to take it slow, so don't unfollow me if I'm not sharing useless, non-stop churning out non-stop content every single minute of my day, because
That's good.
uh,
And we will definitely not unfollow you, not me for sure.
thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you
thank
so
you.
much, Asmita, for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful journey and tips and tricks for your food photography. Thank you so much for being
Thank
on
you.
the show.